NBC Sports Philadelphia's own Dave Zangaro gives us his 7-round mock draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, as a guy who lives and breathes this football stuff, I got to tell you, I respect a mock draft where I understand the concept of what he's trying to achieve, to where some of the moves, while maybe I may disagree with some of them, at least I get where he's coming from and it makes rational sense, because I've seen other mock drafts, and we'll get to those later on, and they don't make no sense to me. All right, y'all, let's get to it. What's up, Cerebral Football fans? My name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Channel. As I stated, guys, we're going to go over Dave Zangaro's 7-round mock draft. He made all 6 picks. He didn't move the board. He kind of stayed put, which, to be fair, Howie Roseman is not really known for doing that, guys. Over the past few years, he's made on average about 3 moves per draft, whether that's trading for players or trading for positioning, all those type of things. Generally speaking, Howie is a guy who will move up and down on the draft board. So, you know, there's an argument to be made that any mock draft where you're just staying still is probably not the most indicative of how Howie Roseman actually, you know, structures his board and what he does. But nonetheless, you can't really predict those things. So let's start off with the first pick in the first round, since we have 2 of them, which was the 10th overall pick. Not to keep you in suspense, guys, where he went with this pick was cornerback out of Oregon, Christian Gonzalez. Now, I'm going to give you, I'm not saying, oh, this guy sucks. I'm not doing all that stuff, guys. What I'm going to simply tell you is the positives and negatives, and I'll talk about scheme, how this guy played in college. I'll give you all that information, all right? So, Christian Gonzalez, what I'll tell you right from the jump is a big, long, athletic corner. I would say that if you're looking for the attributes corner, when I say the height, the weight, and the traits guy, that's Christian Gonzalez, okay? 6'1", about 197 pounds, somewhere around 200-ish. Really good arm reach, 32-inch arm reach. He's got the big, long, arms. I will say, maybe not the best fit in Philadelphia, but I think with enough time, and the fact that even when you play something like a quarters coverage-based shell, and even when we're playing split field and you're seeing like cover 6 and cover 7 and cover 8 concepts, it all really starts from that quarters coverage. With a quarters coverage, if you're not spot dropping, you can play a ton of man technique. So you can mix in man concepts even inside of that spread system. Christian Gonzalez is very much a man corner. However, to Dave Zangaro's credit, if Devin Witherspoon is already off the board, you're already working with projections here. There's not going to be a perfect fit per se for the system and the scheme. So what you got here is a blazing 4.38 40 guy with a 1.54 10 split who jumped 41.5 inches in the vertical, guys, and 133-inch broad jump. This is a very good athlete, ridiculously good athlete. Historically through college, he did play a little bit of slot corner, to be honest, but primarily, guys, he's played what we would call the right cornerback position or boundary corner. Think James Bradberry. Lengthy, tall, athletically gifted, probably not going to touch the field that often for a year or two because of Bradberry's contract situation and just who Bradberry is as a player. But, the draft, to his credit, the draft is about future assets, not current in the moment, right? You want rotational guys. Guys who can contribute if you need them to. But this is very much about projections normally, and we've heard Howie say that himself. All right, second pick in the first round, so pick number 30. Dave Zangaro went with interior defensive lineman out of Clemson University, Bryan Bresee. So, Bryan is a interesting pick here, and I know right from the jump people are probably going to be like, oh man, I don't love this pick, Steve. What I will say to Dave's defense here is he's looking at left defensive tackles, okay? So he's looking for that Fletcher Cox role. Who's the guy who can come in here and has experience playing the left defensive tackle role, can shoot gaps, has a larger upside, maybe hasn't seen his best days of football yet, and that's very much Bryan Bresee, to be honest. The young man is out of Damascus, Maryland, so he is from at least the Northeast. He's from the area. Sometimes you do got to worry about the cultural fits in Philly. I mean, we all went through the whole Denzel Mims thing. So, I mean, if you really look at this young man, like there's a lot to project going forward with him. I mean, he's ran a 4.86 40, a 1.7 110 split, 29-inch vertical. So he's a decent athlete. I will say that he's a bit of a technician at the spot. He's pretty good with his hands. I think there's a lot of upside to his abilities in run defense and then potential progression as a pass rusher. All this is still traits he would have to work on, to be quite honest. He is still very much a project, and I think what a lot of you guys will probably push back on, and I don't blame you per se, is to say that I'm glad he put that at 30 and not at anywhere in the top half of the draft because this dude's been injured, and that's true. I mean, you have to deal with the fact that you're dealing with a player that once had an ACL injury and has also kind of dealt with the shoulder injury. So I do think you put him into a rotation, a place where he doesn't have to be a major, like, immediate contributor, but has to contribute to an extent. He's got to be part of the rotation to an extent. I do think that helps a guy like this. So I see where he's going here. He's looking for a left defensive tackle after he's already secured the corner, and we see it's a very defensive-heavy draft for him from the jump. All right, second round, pick number 62. Dave Zangaro went with safety out of Illinois, Sidney Brown. Another situation to where I see what he's going after. I see what he's trying to do. This is a tough one. So let me start off by saying I do like Sidney Brown as an athlete. I think he's a very good football player. I do think that if you went and looked at his combine testing numbers, you would be like, oh, man, you ran a 4.4 740, Steve. I mean, a 1.51 10 split. That 10 split's nuts, man. 40.5-inch vertical, 130-inch broad jump. I mean, if you put him and Christian Gonzalez next to each other, man, that's two incredibly good athletes out there in the secondary, 100%, man. I will say that he's looking at this as a C.J. Gardner-Johnson type thing. This is a young man that primarily played mostly in the slot or what we would call in a traditional safety split, the strong safety. Okay, so he's over top of tight ends. He's over top of the slot receivers more. He's more of your box type player. Now, what he's looking at is if you take those attributes as a ball hawk, as a guy who can get in there and disrupt the ball, and just to kind of bring the, like, Steve, you can't just say that. You got to point out numbers here. He had 8 forced incompletions on the season, which worked out to a 17% forced incompletion rate, 6 pass breakups, 6 interceptions. The guy has ball skills. He can go get the football for you. What I will say, though, is if you're trying to play more towards as a post safety or an Eagles system where either safety could really be the post safety, they don't like to designate strong or weak in terms of like the traditional sense between strong safety, free safety, those type of things. With that said, I do wonder about his lateral movement abilities, but I understand what Dave Zangaro is trying to do here, right? He's trying to get a guy that kind of mimics the best of the ability here of a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, give you those same attributes, put it out there at that kind of weak side safety position, and then see if you can't develop it and turn that into something kind of special or unique. I would say that the pushback for me would be is that there's more natural safeties in this draft class that you could potentially get around later into that third round window. You got Jamie Robinson out of Florida State, Jartavius Martin out of Illinois. You have Daniel Scott out of Cal. You got Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame. You got Christopher Smith out of UGA. There's more natural post safeties in this draft class, guys that could probably play a little bit more naturally in a too high safety spot. I mean, it is what it is, guys. I mean, it's hard to predict that. And even Jartavius Martin, who's also an Illinois guy, just like Sidney Brown, he was primarily the slot guy for them. So I think he's a little bit more of a natural projection, and he has actual experience playing as a free safety as well. So I think you could go with more natural safeties here. That'd be the one kind of pushback I'd give here. But I certainly understand why he's projecting Sidney Brown there and what he's trying to get at, right? I mean, the fits make sense to me. This isn't like completely left field. Okay, third round, pick number 94. Dave Zangaro went with Devin Achane. I don't know how you say his name. Achane, running back out of Texas A&M. Once again, probably not my pick personally, but I get what Dave was going for here, okay? You got a 5'8", 5'9"-ish, 188-pound back, okay? Now, to explain this to you, what is he looking for? Like, why would he project this guy? This doesn't seem like a down-in and down-out running back. I think Dave's looking at it from the standpoint, if you look at this Philadelphia Eagles offense, this is not a traditional running game. This is not a game where we're going to feature a running back and on a week-to-week basis, that dude's touching the ball 18 to 26 times in a game. You're not going to get a lot of rhythm runners that are going to be successful here in Philadelphia. So you need a guy with, maybe he's only going to get 8 to, let's say, 15 touches at the most if he's the feature back. 16 touches. We'll say somewhere in that area, right? 8 to 16 touches as the feature back. What kind of damage can you do with that, okay? He went with Devin because the dude put up a 4.3 240, guys. I mean, a 1.51 10 split, 33-inch vertical. He has kick return experience. He has played as a punt returner before, so there's some special teams, utility to this young man, so I can understand that aspect of the game as well. His YCO per attempt, so yards after contact per attempt, was 3.60, which is top 50, finished 49th overall. He forced 53 missed tackles, which ranked 31st. 93 elusive rating, which was 60th overall. 35 runs of 10-plus yards, which was 21st overall. And then he had a DYDS 15-plus marker, so runs above 15 yards. He had 18 of those, which ranked 20th. However, my issue here is he's a receiving back. He can catch the football. That would be his utilization on third down, but he is a really, really poor pass protection back. A lot of development would need to occur there in pass protection. So I would be very skeptical of his use and utilization on third down personally. Now, I would also point out there's a ton of other running backs in this class that give you a little bit more size and maybe make you feel a little bit more comfortable that they could endure the NFL a little better. And guys like Dwayne McBride and Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Eric Gray, Zach Evans, like all those dudes are a little bigger, to be quite honest, than Devin. And to be fair, you look at Charbonnet, you look at Eric Gray, you look at Zach Evans, those dudes have their own pass protection issues to where their pass protection on third down, I'd be very much like, you got to develop those dudes. Like, it ain't good enough to last in the NFL right now, if I'm going to be honest about it. However, I look at a guy like Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby can catch the football. He's a really good pass protection back. He is somewhat elusive. He can make you miss. He can give you some yards after contact. He's got a somewhat NFL build to him. I mean, like, to me, he makes some sense. And you look at a guy like Dwayne McBride. Dwayne McBride's a really good running back if you're looking at the measurables of, like, runs over 10 yards, runs over 15 yards, those type of things, those metrics you can measure, right? Really good. I'm going to be honest with you. Dwayne McBride is the best of these backs that we've talked about so far in terms of pass protection. The problem is he doesn't have a ton of experience as a receiving back, so it will leave you to be a little concerned about whether or not, he's going to be able to play the role, because you need to be able to catch the ball in the backfield for the Eagles. So, I understand where he's going with that pick. I probably go a different direction than him. I certainly got why he made the pick, though. At least it makes sense to me. All right. He got 2 7th-round picks. I'm going to tell you exactly what he did, and I think this is what made me respect him a lot, because this is where you're just guessing. Like, I mean, come on, man. I study the draft. I study these players. I watch college football all year long. To sit here and tell you that I got exactly 270 players broke down completely, get out of here. It's tough, man. It's tough to project some of these guys. So what I like what he did here is at pick number 219, he went with nose tackle Broderick Martin out of Western Kentucky. Big dude. 6'5", 337 pound, 34 3/8 inch arm reach, and a 84 1/4 inch wingspan nose tackle. This is a big dude, man. I mean, you get off the bus and you immediately realize that, man, the Eagles got a physical team here. You add that in with the fact that you got Noah Ellis still on the roster currently, and you could be going into camp with Jordan Davis, Broderick Martin, Noah Ellis, Fletcher Cox. Like, I mean, it would be ridiculous. Even Bryan Bresee, if this came to fruition. That's a 6'5", 6'6" dude himself. I mean, this would be a massively large defensive line coming off the bus at you. No doubt about it, man. What I love about this is that fact that he had a top 30 visit with the Philadelphia Eagles, reportedly. Reportedly, Broderick Martin had a top 30 visit with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I mean, I like the creativity of paying attention to those top 30 visits, understanding that, I mean, they probably do want some more depth at nose tackle. Right now, I know a lot of people want to bring back Linval Joseph, and I'm a huge Linval Joseph fan, but he's also 36 years old. I'm not too sure he's coming back, guys. We may have gotten the last hurrah for him. All right, pick number 248, our last and final pick in the 7th round. He went with guard, tackle kind of body type, Asim Richards out of the University of North Carolina. Hate him. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. Can't stand picking. No, I'm joking, man. I'm not a big Tar Heel fan, obviously, guys. I'm an NC State graduate. But what I will say here is he got creative. He went with a 6'4", 307 pound right guard, okay, 34 1/8 inch arm reach, 83 1/4 inch wingspan. So a big physical guy. He's got the appropriate reach that you look for from an lineman. He's got a lot of playing experience. He's played right guard. He's a Philadelphia native. So I like what he did here. Like, he's going back to, okay, let's identify somebody who played at an ACC school, a high-level caliber, is from the area, fits a position of need, may potentially be available in that spot. We can never predict who's going to go 6th round versus 7th round versus priority undrafted rookie free agent status. Some of this stuff's a little hard to predict with these guys on the back end, guys, to be fair. But I will say about Dave Zangaro's draft, guys, is that it made sense. I saw exactly what he was trying to do, right? He went out there and tried to find a guy to compete at right guard, or at least a developmental prospect on the back end of the roster. I wouldn't say compete because I think that's a bit of a stretch on his first year, but you get what I mean here, guys. He went out there and he found a running back that, while it's not the running back I would choose personally, he's trying to find an effective back that can make the most out of a small amount of touches and give you special teams utilization, right? Explosive playmaker, that kind of thing. Then he went out there and he found a safety. He found a left defensive tackle or strong side defensive tackle. And he went out there and found you a future cornerback in Christian Gonzalez. I'm not saying that these are all the players I would make, these are all the picks I would take, but nonetheless, it makes sense, man. I get what he was trying to do at least. At least, while I might disagree with the details, and I might be able to add a little bit more context and say, like, Dave, what are you thinking about this? Man, at least this stuff makes sense because I've seen some other mock drafts that I'm going to bring up, guys. I'm going to keep doing these because I know you guys really like me breaking down this stuff for you guys. I've seen some other mock drafts, man, where I'm like, this dude has never touched a football field a day in his life. They're just throwing darts at a board. Like, the scheme fits make no sense. Like, you can't just project anybody just because you understand the name. That's not how it works. What can you do? All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all's time and attention. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Dave Zangaro's draft, man. I think it's definitely a pretty good one. I don't know if this is 1.0 or is 2.0. I can't tell you guys, but I mean, it makes sense to me. I'm not saying that we will or won't go with any of these dudes he picked. I don't know. I understood what he was trying to get at. You know what I mean? I understood where he was going with the picks. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I'll see y'all in the next video.